Today's episode is sponsored by Liberty Language Services and its new sister company, the Academy of Interpretation, that launched in early 2022. The Academy of Interpretation is an online education and learning platform for the language services industry. The AOI's mission is to expand access to educational courses while establishing a standard of quality and professionalism. They do this by bringing language service providers, content creators, and students together on an online platform that's accessible to everyone. The Academy of Interpretation was founded to address the widespread problem of untrained interpreters working in the field. The AOI offers professional, accredited courses for interpreters and serves as a platform for organizations to refer their interpreters for training. The AOI is offering Brand the Interpreter listeners a 10% discount on all courses using the discount code AOI10BTI. This code cannot be combined with any other discounts. But check out the episode show notes for more information about the Academy of Interpretation or visit their website at www.academyofinterpretation.com. Liberty Language Services is a rapidly growing language service company that recently celebrated 11 years of providing language access services, and they are currently hiring freelance interpreters for a variety of languages. To find out more about Liberty or to apply, check out the episode notes. Eman, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Maria, for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here with you today.
Yes, I'm actually very much looking forward to today's conversation to get to talk to you about your story and have you share about your area of expertise in the language industry as it relates to your specific language, which is Arabic as well, and just really get into some of these topics. But first, I'd like to ask you, Iman, what does your name mean?
It means faith in Arabic. So it means, I don't know, like when I was younger, the name was really common and everywhere, like when you go to school or, I don't know, like any private course or anything, you see like many names, many imams in the room. So I wasn't like fond of my name. But later in my, I don't know, like life, I started to see the true meaning of my name mean faith, and I feel like I'm connected to this idea of having faith in everything, despite any chaotic situations happening in my life and the world in general. So yeah,
It's
very
like,
great to have a meaningful name.
yes, you are. And it's like almost like a beacon, right? That's I like that so much about faith and yeah, going back to your roots, your name, to have faith in what you're doing. That's very beautiful. I like that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Eamon, I'd like to ask, as I ask many of our guests here, take us back to your childhood and share with us, what did you aspire to be when you grew up?
Sure. Well, I have, like a regular childhood, but I don't have this changing of my, future career or job. When I was around 10 or 11, I just decided that I wanted to be like an interpreter because I just saw these people in conferences or when there is like a visit from another president to the Egyptian president. I just got fascinated by seeing a person sitting, like between two presidents, and like he's conveying the message, and it's really great. I don't know. I felt like I need to be this person who conveys the message, who helps other people understand each other. And it was a little bit weird because, like being an interpreter or a translator here in Egypt's not, like a fancy job. Here I don't know, like every parent, not every parent, but most of the parents here aspire their kids to be either a doctor or an engineer. I don't know why. Um,
Boring,
and
boring.
yeah, I don't know, it's super prestigious to be a doctor or an engineer here in Egypt, but I didn't I didn't like this subject that we study at school that referring to either both ways. So it was like I don't know, like having this I don't know, conflict with my parents when I was in high school, because when here in high school you start to pick which side you're gonna study to join colleges for that.
Mm.
So starting from the second year in high school here, you pick like from two departments. Either you would like to, I don't know, like choose to study history, geography, psychology, and these colleges will, I don't know, like will these subjects or this department will move you forward when you are going to college to the languages, arts, literature, I know colleges. And the other department is the science, chemistry, math, and all of these stuff. And then from this department, you're going to be a doctor, engineer, computer science specialist, whatsoever in this particular department. And I was a good student, no bragging, but I was a really good student. So it's, I don't know, like a common thought here. If you are a good student, you go to the Department of Science and Math, because the other department, I don't know, like for average students or something like this. And of course, my parents were, I don't know, like open, and you don't have just to go to the science and mathematics. You can choose whatever you like, and this seemingly beautiful thought about, like my future. And so I go to, I don't know, like the history, geography department. I don't like these subjects so much, but I know if I got to the other department, it will be like a disaster when deciding to go to college. So I decided to have this conflict right now at that time when I was just in high school. And when I went home after picking, this department, they, I don't know, like yelled at me, "You're going to destroy your future." And I don't know, like this parenting, lovely, beautiful conflict. Uh, so yeah, and I just persuaded them that I'm going to follow the thing that I like, and whatever the circumstances will become, I'm going to work hard on myself, and make you proud as always. I'm not
Mm.
going to, I don't know, like lessen the time of my studying or anything. Just yeah, so it was a bit challenging to persuade them, but I got it, and I joined Faculty of Al-Alsun. It means languages in Arabic. And I studied English, linguistics, translation, and minored in French language. So it was a really great experience going to the university, getting to know so many, I don't know, like these people who have their conflict with their parents because they were good students at high school, and their parents want them either to be a doctor or an engineer. So it feels like a supporting group
Yeah,
in
for sure.
college.
I bet. I bet. Like
Yeah.
the whole group was like, "Oh yeah, you made it too." I love this story because it demonstrates at such a young age the courage that you had in the belief of what you wanted to pursue and the faith that you had in what you wanted to pursue. So thanks for sharing that. I think that's a great example of, if your heart is speaking it, if you feel it in your heart, and you follow that path, it can only lead to great opportunities, and you never know what it's going to lead to. So I think that's the beauty of it. There's so many young people that do follow their parents' dreams as opposed to their own, and later on down the path, years later, they come to resent that decision, or just the way it's showed up in their life, or for years they end up having that feeling of what if I should have done something else, right? I'd like to get an idea, Eman, of what life is like in Egypt. Give us an example for those of us that aren't from the area, aren't familiar, what that is like. Where did English come into your life, per se, and how did you determine, or your parents determine, that this was something that you should continue learning and developing?
Yeah, here the language is it's Arabic is the official language here in Egypt, like so many other countries in the Arab world. And yeah, we have like two languages here in Egypt, and in the Arab world in general, you have a language that you speak. It's a dialect, and it's different from one country to another, and sometimes within the same country there are many dialects, and we have the modern standard Arabic, the language that we use for education, for writing, for like all the formal documents and papers are in modern standard Arabic. News, when you're watching any, I don't know, like news or official statements are made in modern standard Arabic. So basically, you start learning Arabic when you are in kindergarten, and you start to learn another language also from kindergarten. For yeah, for
Wow.
my yeah, for my case, it was English, and I was learning. You're learning both, like in the first year of kindergarten, you start to learn Arabic, how to write the letters, like small sentences. If you write your name and something like this, different names, you have to know like how to write your full name in Arabic when you're just in kindergarten. And then the following year, or sometimes at the same year, you start learning English. This is depending on how you progress in Arabic. And yeah, you start learning the letters and how different words are in both Arabic and English. So it's really great. Some people also learn a third language at kindergarten. Yeah,
Wow.
and I find it a little bit difficult at that age to learn, but I learned many from many research that you can definitely from this young age you can start learning many languages. So sometimes I regret not knowing many languages when I was younger. Yeah, and you start learning English from this age and Arabic as well until high school. You get another language. You can start between. This is for national schools because international schools and private schools have like another system. For international schools, mainly you're studying will be in English from I don't know, like grade one or something like this. And here for national schools, you start to learn a third language. Um, from day one in high school, you start to choose whether you're going to learn French, Spanish, Italian, or German. So you need to pick a language to study it through the 3 years of high school. And then I don't know, some people go to colleges where the whole, I don't know, curriculum is in Arabic. If you're joining, I don't know, like one of these scientific colleges, your curriculum will be definitely in English. And if you're studying colleges like art or languages, you're going to study the language you're going to be specialized in. So it's different. And English, I don't know, like this is like a small confession. I didn't like to join the English department at college because I felt that I already learned like enough English in my life.
I already know it. I don't need to go through this. I'd like to ask actually, Iman, with regards to going it starting since kindergarten and being what we call here in the States, it's basically like a dual language immersion program, right? In which you are learning in two languages. And typically those programs, not typically, that those programs begin in kindergarten and then follow the student as they get till the end of primary school. And many of the difficulties coming from a school district where the translation and interpreting unit is within the ELD program department, I tend to be exposed to many of these conversations with regards to what we call our students that are coming from other countries into the States for the first time as newcomers. And when they're coming in and they're going into fully English immersion or full English immersion classrooms, the difficulties are that there is no support for that language at home. And
Yeah.
so it becomes a very difficult situation for the student in which there is no resource at home to be able to support them in this new language that they're fully immersed in. Was that your experience growing up, or were your parents fluent in English by that point that you could find the support? Or what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was like like the same for these people. Just we speak Arabic at home, everywhere. If you would like just to speak English or practice English, you need to, I don't know, like going to public libraries here, and they have these languages groups, and or either you have to go to study a course with a private tutor or instructor, so you can learn from them. But for my case, my parents just found me a genius kid, and I have to depend on myself without any additional help from any. So just we kept our life as it is. We speak in Arabic, and when you go to school, and you're not even speaking in different classes in English. It's only on your English class. So it's not like having this conflict over whether to speak the language you're learning or the language you're actually speaking in your daily life. This thing started at college, actually, this conflict of you need to speak in English everywhere at college, because from day one, the first professor that I know like entered the class told us this is the most difficult department in in the college. You may think that you all know English, and it's a language that you're learning from very young age, but the truth is you're going to study linguistics and translation, many other I don't know, like specializations. So basically, you know nothing about the language, and it was like the first shock you have at university. Basically, because many of my colleagues thought that we already know English. We just I don't know, like we what else you're gonna teach us here? Uh, yeah. So when she said that, she started, I don't know, like, uh, telling us everything in English. And if you're a student in the national schools in Egypt, this is not even the case. Even in your English class, the teachers are speaking in Arabic and explaining everything in Arabic, except for the time that you have to read something in English or the discussing grammar, vocab, etc. So you're not taught at national schools in English, even in your English classes. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so it was strange for those who are coming from national schools to have the whole, like your whole life is going to be in English, and it wasn't allowed to speak in Arabic in these lectures. And you have, I don't know, like we have regular projects, presentations, you have to prepare, you have to do research, like it was full of, like hard work for your
Full
university.
immersion, like we
Mhm.
call it here. You had a full immersion experience all of a sudden compared to, your primary and secondary, right? And now you're in college, and it's like, okay, now English, English, so we can practice, right? So it's like, that's how they say, if you want to learn a language, then speak it, another language, speak it. You've got to practice it. Like when we are learning to speak in general, we have to keep practicing it. The program that you mentioned right now, you had mentioned earlier that you went in it because you were interested in being a translator. So when you go into the program and now you're exposed to the content, I imagine it just opened up a whole new world for you. What was that experience like in really feeling like you were going to be a translator? What were those thoughts that were going through your mind with regards to what area maybe of specialty in translation, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, it was it was hard at the beginning because when you have the dreams and the real world is different from your dreams. And I remember the professor who taught us translation. He said that translation is an art. It's not. Don't look it as a profession or something that you will get money from, because we have here a common thought that translators are I don't know getting their money in dollars. You're not gonna make it. You're living in our local currency here, so you're going to be rich, being a translator. Yeah. So it was hard at the beginning to I don't know, absorb the fact that there are many I don't know, areas that you can learn and books that you can study to be a good translator. At the university, we have this when you study translation, you have the practical side and theoretical side. So we studied some theories, and it was fascinating how different approaches in translations and know absorb or can be applied in daily work at least. And the practical side, you're basically translating from English into Arabic. We didn't actually have many areas of specializations at college. We like for the, I don't know, first 2 years we study environmental texts and media texts from newspapers and magazines. uh, and also the following 2 years we became like more technical in translation. So we start to study legal, medical, literary, yeah, the UN text. Yeah, it's so it's a little bit, I don't know, like different, of course, from what you're going to tackle in, the job market. But it was like a good introduction for us to know that there are areas of specialization, because at the beginning you feel like everyone can translate
Right. Right.
anything, like
Anything
you
and
have a
everything.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can translate, so translate. It's
Yeah.
really easy.
Was the program everything you had imagined it to be? Were you excited once you started, and or did suddenly your perspective change about, your desired profession?
Yeah, it's definitely changed from day one because I know that uh, I love linguistics and I love translation, but I find they are like interconnected. and you should learn linguistics more and study linguistics more to understand the different approaches that you can resort to in translation. So at the beginning, I thought that if I just only study translation, I'm going to be a translator. So no need to extra, I don't know, subject or materials. But I felt that and I feel that every day. So it's definitely changed. And in the second year or the third year, I started to realize that there are other things, like away from the college that I need to learn, and started to follow, like magazines or people from the industry, and I at at the beginning everything was really vague and I didn't understand the word from what these people are talking about. And like time by time I started to have a thought that there are some sites that are not covered in the university and I have to learn these things by myself. Yeah, I started also, I don't know, to follow translation offices and companies to know if I need to get an internship or I need to, I don't know, there is like areas of specializations that I have to learn or even, I don't know, get an idea about because I wasn't I wasn't fond of the technical translation, the legal. I was really bad.
You
And I
knew
find,
that's not what you wanted for sure. You weren't sure what,
yeah.
but you knew that for sure was not what you wanted. You mentioned that you started translating. Um, you got your hands on your like first translation project while you were still in school. So how did that come
Yeah.
to be?
It was very difficult actually and challenging. But when I remember that, now it feels like great. I started very early. It was actually very hard because you're not fully, I don't know, a professional. I don't know, it's not like fully professional. It's like you need more studying, you need more time to get, your hand on actual translation, not the practical text that we have at college. So it was hard because it was a legal text, and I find it very difficult. And I took longer time, and I extended the deadline so many times at that time. And but I believe that my seniors were a bit, like understanding that I'm still young, and actually they provided me this opportunity. It's not that easy to get an internship when you are just in the second year or the third year at college. Um, it was like great, and I fully absorbed the fact that I am not going to specialize in legal text at all. I am going to, I don't know, like be away from any legalizations. Despite there are multiple materials and resources you can have in legal translation here in Arabic. There are so many books written by great translators on how to be a good legal translator, but I'm not interested. Thank you so much.
So that was not for me either. Now, here's what I love about listening to the stories of language professionals and how the paths basically create themselves the moment that you start taking your first steps towards the objective or towards your goal, towards that dream of yours, because you begin your journey in this world of the language profession wanting to do interpreting, right? And you make yourself or make your way into translation and start to look at these different specializations, right, that are out there. You say you're following companies to get exposed to the content and just what they're doing. How do you start then getting involved in more translation work? Did you decide that you like translation more than interpreting?
I don't know, basically, when I started to do this, but when I just joined this department at college, there is a specific department for the different types of translation and interpretation. But I didn't realize that this department exists until my second year at college, that there is like a specific department for this. So I just realized the fact that I'm not at that time, and I don't know, like I believe that until now I can listen and talk and understand at the same time. It's really hard for me to do these three processes at the same time. I have like some experience on consecutive interpretation. I was a volunteer in some, I don't know, like conferences, tournaments, sport tournaments here in Egypt. And the consecutive interpretation is really great for me because I have the time to absorb and like interpret everything and like say it back. So I was really happy to get this opportunity as a consecutive interpreter. But I believe that you need to be spontaneous and know the different areas in interpretation. I felt like translation is good for me at the same time till I have like more practice. And who knows, maybe in the future I join the interpreters community because I still love interpreting, but I still believe that I don't have the needed skills to be a good interpreter. So yeah, sometimes when I go to film festivals, I go to the cinemas in my free time. So sometimes you meet a foreigner or a person, the filmmaker or a director or something from this film. So sometimes you have to do the interpretation for these people to understand each other. And yeah, I enjoy doing this,
That's great.
like casually, not professionally. I'm going to ruin everyone's life.
You begin your journey wanting to become an interpreter, and the journey itself, as it begins to develop, sort of sways you into the world of translation. When we first started our conversation, you mentioned very much that you've got the academic, the modern standard Arabic that is utilized in like the news and like in education in the classrooms. And then you have your dialects. So in English it's basically the same, right? You have your academic English in the classroom that you learn. It's like that textbook style, like the one you'd learn in school, textbook style, right? And then that's why you figured, I already speak English, like why do I need to do this when you're in college? And then your professor is like, no, you do not. This is
Yeah.
the English. So it's just so interesting and fascinating to me how you get into translation, number one, but then very specifically the video game localization, which does not use standard English, right? This is
Yeah.
slang most of the time. And you please correct me, you're going to have us walk us through, what it actually is like, because I imagine if you're listening to a video game that is very much, just what we call here street talk, right? And it's that English that you speak between friends, not the ones that you talk in classrooms or in offices, how that translates to Arabic, and not your modern standard Arabic, because I imagine then that would be probably boring to the video game player. So let's get started in this very great conversation that I'm so eager to talk to you about. How did you start? Let's begin there with video game localization.
Yeah. Uh, um, when I was still at college, I just moved from this the office that have this legal text and joined another one that is interested in translating advertisements, marketing campaigns, like, and I believe that these areas are my interest. I'm doing marketing translation too, beside the video games. So I find myself very, very interested in marketing and the areas of advertisements and applications and you know um, translating applications and websites. Yeah, that's really great and fun and full of I don't know, like things to learn and cover. From this company, I worked there for almost 2 years. I learned that I need to pursue my career in apps and games, and later in this company, I started to translate games, like mobile games for app stores and Google Play also. So it was really great to have, like I used to play games when I was really young. We have this Atari and then your PC and your, I don't know, consoles, Xbox and etc. So I love playing games, but I don't know that there is a specialization for video games.
Right. You're just
Uh,
playing, right?
yeah, and when I just play, like the big games or AA games, um, when I just find the Arabic translations not, I don't know, like good in my opinion at that time, because I feel that I don't know, you have to feel the tone of the source text. Like you said, it's street talk. How do you make it in modern standard Arabic? And yeah, and I discovered that there are so many rules and there are so many aspects you need to consider when you're translating video games, because it seems like a fun niche, but actually it has so many challenges, uh, especially if you're talking about having a modern standard Arabic and different dialects. We're more than 20 countries in the Arab world who speak Arabic, but none of us is speaking in modern standard Arabic. Everyone speaks in their dialect,
Mm.
and there are so many different dialects here in Egypt. I know, like we're having a dialect in each city, where and sometimes it's hard for Egyptians who are living their whole lives in Egypt to understand each other, because someone is from Cairo, someone is from Alexandria, or someone from Aswan. So we have so many dialects. Uh, and I figured that modern standard Arabic is the best solution for this case, because the gaming companies are treating the Arab world as one big community, if we can say it in this, I don't know, regard.
Right.
So you cannot choose a dialect. You don't have this freedom to choose a dialect, because what if you making the game available in modern and sorry, Egyptian dialect or Moroccan dialect? So the other people will in the airport will never understand. Yeah, there are some dialects who are which are more, I don't know, like easy to understand in the airport for all of us. But you have this idea that why choosing this dialect, not my dialect, and
Mm.
everyone starts to say why they are preferring the Egyptian or Syrian dialect over, I know, my Algerian dialect, for example, because Algerian dialect is is known to be a difficult dialect to learn in the airport. um, so it was fascinating to know that it's not just you have to translate this street talk into street talk in a specific dialect. You need to convey the message in modern standard Arabic, which is I don't know, like a more classic uh, language or style of writing. So it was a little bit challenging. It's still challenging at this time to convey how, like everyday talk to a classic way of expressing the same words. But sometimes you resort to the dialect if the text like needed this I don't know like intervention of having this someone who is from a specific part who is not familiar with the modern standard Arabic. It's in the source language sometimes there is like play words with the English language, and because everything can be played with in English, it's not the same in Arabic,
Yeah.
and it will look very weird to play with I don't know like fixed words in modern standard Arabic. You can play with the dialect as much as you can because we will understand it. It's a dialect, and there is like I don't know like no fixed rules. Yeah, there are some rules for dialect, of course, but it's not like as strict as the modern standard Arabic. It's hard to handle how a joke can be made and using only the modern standard Arabic. Sometimes you have these amazing choices or equivalents for I don't know like a slang in your dialect or in some dialects, but you can't add it because you need to convey that in modern standard Arabic. Yeah, there are some games who are made in dialect. Yeah, these games exist. But as I said, the receiving is not that good for someone who doesn't speak this dialect, and the comparison always starts here in the airport. Why choosing this dialect, not my dialect? Because
Yeah.
I'm not understanding what they are
Yeah.
saying.
So you're given a project and you come to realize that wow, this in it of itself, this specialty requires so much, right? There's the aspect of understanding the video game, just like, with anything in our industry, having that context is super important. But I've also realized that having that system of support, those mentors, those people that help guide us through our work as well, having that community, right, of translators or interpreters is very important in the work that we do as well. I wonder, how open was that for you when you come to realize that video game localization is a thing, it's something that exists, that's out there? How was it for you in finding not just a group or a community in support of the specialty, but in support of your specific language pair? What did you come to find out?
Yeah, I have, my colleagues at work, and they are fantastic people to learn from, actually, because, as I said, the first company where I have the chance to translate video games is just mobile games, and, like the experience you get from, a small mobile games, comparing it to a game that will be displayed on PlayStation or Xbox or PC. It's I know these games on the platforms are very big games, and they have multiple challenges you cannot imagine. So I moved to another big company that specialize in these big games to get hands-on experience on these challenges and know how to handle such big games. So my colleagues and my first mentor in video games, if I can mention her name, is Hagar. Hagar Ahmed El Batal. She is an amazing person to work with. She was like my first team leader in the video games localization, and I don't know, like moving from just mobile games and to these big games was huge difference, and I didn't imagine that how hard this will be. So she was really patient with me. She had me a lot. She was giving so many tips and priceless tips, actually, to improve and to be a better version of this video game translators. And I really owe her a lot of my, I don't know, I can say I'm a very successful, but of my knowledge or the way I think about different options to translate even a small or a very tiny word. So I owe her a lot. And also, I was surrounded by so many great colleagues, actually. If I can mention names, I also have Khulud Kassab. She is a great person to work with, and she is my friend now, and it's not just a colleague or someone you just work with, and everyone ended in their past. So she was really, I don't know, kind and empathetic with me. She always by my side providing tips. And I know these people are very amazing for me to
Yes.
learn from. And it was, I don't know, very necessary to understand that you can ask for help, you can make mistakes, and you can definitely learn as long as you having this mindset of continuous growth. And time by time, I started to have these people around me in different, I don't know, like my colleagues at work and people from LinkedIn, from courses I attend. So it's really great to have a community on your back, because sometimes a person in your community sees an opportunity for you to make something or to do a certain step, and you're giving it a thought that you didn't think about this thing before or such an idea, and they push you forward. And I have to say that I'm very lucky to have so many people around me who are pushing me forward from all over the world, not just from my colleagues in the airport.
Oh,
uh,
yes. Very important. And you've mentioned so many great things with regards to surrounding yourself with people that are challenging you and pushing you forward, seeing your abilities more clearly than you can see them yourselves. It's very important to surround yourself with people like that, because we are exposed to not just, like you just mentioned, the connections that they have and the thought of potentially them thinking of you for something very specific. But the unique experiences and the learning opportunities that you have. But it's important too, like you mentioned, Eman, that you have this mentality that you're open to receiving. Because if you approach the profession or anything in life that matter with a cup full, meaning you've learned it all and there's not anything else that anyone else can teach you, then it's very difficult for you to experience what you just shared with us, because you're coming at it with the mind thinking, I've learned everything I could possibly learn. You've shared so many great things, and I feel like, oh my god, there's so many great questions that I'd have. I'd like to ask you, however, something that may be a little bit sensitive, and I'm hoping you can be as open as you can about it, which has to do with the fact that you've entered a world that may potentially not be as exposed to the female interpreter or the female translator, and in addition to a language that doesn't have the exposure as much as maybe other dominant languages. So here are two challenges, right, that you've already entered. You went and entered a very challenging specialization, even, I think, and took it like head on to move forward. And now this is why we're here talking about it. But tell us what those specific challenges were for you as a young female Arabic translator in video game, which very male dominant localization. What were those challenges for you?
Yeah, it's it's hard because Arabic still in its own, I don't know, like first steps in the world of video games. Yeah, that translating into Arabic was, I know, like from long time ago, but video games itself started booming in the recent years because of COVID. Such everyone is sitting at their homes and you're just playing. You're
Yeah.
escaping from the real world, and you're, I don't know. Going into another imaginative universe where you are the hero who, I don't know, defeat the powers of evil. So it was really challenging at the beginning because you're translating into a language that has its own challenges, like away from video games, it's already challenging to
Mm.
translate into Arabic. And when I started to attend events about video games and the challenges and etc., I didn't find a single person that translate games into Arabic, and it was really shocking because you don't have someone to share how it's difficult for you I don't know, to translate. There are so many of my colleagues who translate into French, Italian, German, Chinese, uh, whatsoever languages you can imagine, but it was like really rare to find someone who translates games into Arabic. But I don't know why, because there are so many people who translate games into Arabic. Um, but I felt like this domination of other languages, I don't know, it's something that I don't like in our industry, to be very honest. uh, I don't see a fair representation of languages. I I I see it's English dominated. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we're talking in English. This is like very ironic, but I don't know. People in the industry don't I don't know, consider the fact that there are so many other languages rather than English. So when you're, I don't know, setting up a software for a cat tool, or setting up, I don't know, any helpful tool for translators, you didn't, you don't think of other language professionals who work in, I don't know, for example, right to left languages. Because for us, dealing sorry, dealing every day with um, softwares that don't support our languages is a nightmare because you start writing your own translation, and you find that also Arabic is written in a cursive style of writing. So
Mm.
this makes like another challenge when you're trying to type your translation in a software that is not configured to cursive writing. So
Ah.
you find the letters separated, and this is this is I don't know. When you're looking at sentences of separated letters in Arabic, there is a mistake. There is no way that you can write separated letters. So these I don't know, marginalizing way of dealing with RTL languages, or Arabic to be specific, is very annoying for me, because we're not just, I don't know, like a small number of people who are speaking Arabic.
Mm.
The people who speak Arabic are more than 400 million people around the globe. So we're not a minority, we're not a small number. And even minor languages deserve this, deserve that people should be respected in a way that you exist and your language exists, and we have to respect that. But I don't feel like this feeling of giving every language, or every, I don't know, even region their true worth, or the respect they deserve.
Right.
And I know this is reflected in so many other ways. Definitely, I'm not that person who is criticizing everything, but I was just pointing out the fact that we exist and we deserve to be, I don't know, to do our work without uh I don't know, without thinking about other challenges rather than the challenges we have in our work itself. So, first speaking that I am um, most of the source texts in video games are coming in Excel files, and then they are imported or exported to another programming software, and most of the softwares, if it's not all of them, are not configured to Arabic. So when you're exporting this file or downloading it to um, a specific program or like CSP, it's you will find the Arabic letters are written like question marks, and it's not configured until you have to follow like it's not a big problem, of course, but why I do need to have this to do this process to make it. You need to go through a process to change, I know, like the type of the file or the format of the file, and re-upload it again and doing some changes. Then you will find it, then it's written as it is in the Excel file. So I don't need to do all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, like do it in an easier way for everyone. So this person who is responsible for delivering, and sometimes you work with indie games, and it's a one-man show sometimes. So this programmer and publisher and everything, they need to go through extra processes to just upload a file. It's not it's not even, you're not starting even programming or doing anything. You're just uploading your
Yeah.
file,
It's
and
like
you
added
just,
challenges to
yeah.
something that shouldn't be a challenge. I foresee that you might be the person that comes up with the solution for this situation globally. So potentially food for thought for you.
Yeah.
Man, these are such great points, and I appreciate the fact that you're sharing these challenges and are very open about these here for potentially other young Arabic translators or interpreters that are wishing to enter the field and don't know what to expect. You've shared with us some of those challenges that you have encountered yourself as you entered the field, the important factors that play a role in your growth and your development and in your success, really, because these are things that we can continue utilizing as we move into our profession and grow and expand. And so I thank you for sharing all those things. But I know that if you had the opportunity to speak to a group of young Arabic speaking future entrepreneurs or future language professionals that are really wanting to break into the industry, what would be those recommendations that would be absolutely necessary? And I hope you mentioned LinkedIn, but not to guide your response. My apologies. But what would be those recommendations you would share with a younger audience?
Yeah, sure. First, yeah, I was going to mention LinkedIn. Yes, because everything started there, for me at least, and I started using LinkedIn when I was in my second year at college too. Started to follow, like important and big names in the industry, just to know how everything is going, and start to read magazines from CIOL, ITI, even multilingual magazine. So these things are very important for me, and I feel like I'm progressing in a good way in my career path, because I have learned from, like I don't know, good resources, or I listen to good people from the industry. There are no bad people. There are, like when someone shares their tips about having a project to translate, or specializing or even doing marketing for yourself. Any possible topic that is mentioned in our language professional community is really important, and I am a language maniac, so I already try to find out and figure everything I'm interested in the languages I know and I don't know. So yeah, sure, having this I don't know, like mindset to be exposed more to the other world, because the more you expose to other people or the other language professionals, the more you will learn, and you wouldn't imagine how much you can acquire from, I know, one event or even one talk, like talking to you today, is how this will enrich your mind, and how this will give you like a different perspective in so many other things that you cannot thinking of, like talking to person in your area or in your country. Yeah, it's really great to talking to my colleagues here in Egypt and in the airport. But somehow I feel like we are having, similar thoughts and similar ideas. And when you are exposed to, I know, my colleagues from England or USA, I find myself like, oh wow, these people are really thinking of things that I couldn't have this, I don't know, I couldn't have this thought in my head before. And yeah, this is sometimes I discover things that I have to, I know, improve in my, like my my life in general. um yeah, the idea of sharing itself gives me I don't know, like goosebumps every time someone shares something with me, or with all of us as a language professionals community, is really great. And sometimes I start learning about I don't know, like a specific thing because someone mentioned it in their post or in their
Yeah.
newsletter. And yeah, the recommendations of books is really great for me because I really love reading. And yeah, it's great to know how everybody sees a specific book, even if it's a small book. How I, like my perspective is different from yours, is different from someone else lives in, X country. And this idea of sharing and exchanging is really helpful. So exposure is the main thing, and just to, I don't know, like be brave enough to make mistakes, because no one is perfect. Yeah, easier said than done.
Yeah.
Because if you're a perfectionist, it will be very hard. But you are not going to be, I don't know, the most evil person in the world if you're making such a mistake. Because I believe that everything can be fixed if you just exerted some effort to fix it.
Yeah.
uh, Obviously, yeah, if you're making a mistake or you doing anything, making mistakes is even, I know, sometimes addressing someone in a bad way, or in, and I know the less respectful way of dealing with someone who is superior or who is, I know, older or whatsoever. This could be a mistake in my book. So you can just simply apologize, and as long as having this amazing opportunity to learn, you should go for it. And you're not just, okay, I'm doing great in my life, I'm a good translator, this person, I don't know, thanked me for my, I don't know, great quality translation. Yes, but you have to learn more, you have to be a top quality, and you have to aspire for more. This mindset of having this continuous improvement, not just in your career, in your life, to be a better person, a better version of your current self. So continuous improvement is simply another tip.
Most
Um,
definitely. Those are
yeah,
excellent resources, excellent tips. Anything else you wanted to share?
I don't know, like be sometimes I feel like part of this problem of not having fair representation of languages is on us. We are guilty of that because we're not speaking about it, or we're not, I don't know, discussing it out loud. Like other things like rates, for example, in the industry is spoken out loud everywhere. But for the fair representation of languages, or of I know software programs we deal with every day, I don't feel like it has the same, I don't know, space of talking and discussing. And we are guilty of, you know, seeing this as a normal thing, because we should share our thought about that, and we should talk more about that, because as long as we have an opportunity to make a difference in the world, even if it's a very tiny small difference, we should go and exert some effort to do that. Yeah, trying to, I don't know, how can I say that, just be brave enough to talk about how your language is represented, and how this language is deserves to be represented. Um, yeah, I guess these are the main things that I have right now. Obviously, you know, like working on yourself and your language, learning all the about your specialization, listening to your seniors' tips and try to follow them. Yeah, there are, you know, the common tips that everyone gives to some people. Yeah.
Those are great, great and excellent tips. I think that there's so much depth to what you have just given everyone, that there's plenty to do following Eman's recommendations for you younger professionals, or even if you're looking into transitioning into something else. I think just in general, those are excellent recommendations, Eman. Uh, we're getting ready to close out today's episode, but before we go, where can our listeners find out more about you and the work that you do?
I'm basically an active person on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Eman Abdo. I can bot, I don't know, like my personal profile link. Um, yeah, I'm always there, and I'm always exchanging this, I don't know, everything I learn with my colleagues there. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. LinkedIn, if you don't have a profile already, I don't know how many times I've preached that on this platform. Go and get started on a LinkedIn profile. Please put that as your to do on your to do list at some point, and connect with other language professionals around the world on a professional platform. It's not, I'm not being sponsored, by the way, from LinkedIn. So so this is just out of personal experience. Many of the stories that I do get and I come across are stories that have been posted on LinkedIn. Eman, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you today. I very much am on board with your thought with regards to exposing the language industry, exposing the specialization, exposing the languages. But by us being a part of that exposure and that communication, I find that that's exactly what this platform is about, that that's exactly what I strive to do. And I thank you for the opportunity to have done so with your story and with just your specialty and everything else that you shared here with us today. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Maria, for this opportunity. I'm really honored, and I'm not exaggerating to be here with you today. You know, like being a fan of a podcast, and then you get an invitation to be like a guest or a person who shared their story is a very great feeling for me. So thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for helping other people and exchanging stories and knowledge. This is, I don't know, all my life is all about. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Eman. Take care.